Hello, 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 all of you out there. I am so happy to be with you this evening. Welcome to the Create the Life You Love podcast with the Chapters Network. We're on Facebook, we're on Cablevision, we're here and YouTube, and we're so excited to be here with you. I am your host, Georgia Woodbine. And I am very excited to share with you conversations with successful business owners, entrepreneurs that provide you with content to help you grow in your life and in business. I am so happy that you decided to join us and feel free to share your comments, ask questions during the podcast. Like I said, this show is here to give you support, to give you knowledge, to give you information, to empower you in your business and to move forward in your highest potential to create the life that you love. Remember to subscribe, remember to like and to share this podcast, and to visit my website, www.georgiawoodbine.com. We would like to welcome our wonderful guest, Sarah Boxx. And Sarah Boxx is a CEO and founder of Sarah Boxx LLC. She provides organizational growth and development consulting services for nonprofit organizations and coaches, and for she motivates professionals to carry out big goals that are effective. And she's also a best-selling author and a change maker for the Ripple Effect. In 2016. She's the host of No Labels, No Limits podcast, which I was actually a guest on. And she is the founder of International Nonprofit Leaders Membership Community. She draws more than 40 years of professional experience and working and serving small businesses. And we're so happy to have her here today. Welcome, Sarah. How are you?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Georgia. I remember when I had you on the podcast and how inspiring you were for me and our audience. So it's a privilege
Mhm.
for me to be here, and I feel grateful to be on your show and with your community tonight. So I'm well. I'm excited to be in 2023 and have spent the day in conversation with people in different states who are doing amazing work.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for being here and joining us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you arrived to where you are now? Because there's always a backstory, right?
Yeah, there's a backstory. My backstory is not a straight line. So I didn't decide what I was going to do. In fact, I've never had a clear, like I never said I want to become an XYZ type of professional person. What I always wanted to do was get something that I wanted. So I started really working for money when I was about 8 years old, because my penmanship was good. My dad paid me to address envelopes for him. And so I
Mm-hmm.
quickly learned that if my penmanship was good and I was focused, I could make more money doing that at a young age than my older sister was making babysitting. So it but it taught me if I wanted something, I could do it, right? I could
Mm-hmm.
apply myself and do it. So that went from there. And then when I got older and I wanted to have a horse, so I was still 12, I wasn't old enough. And I was
Mm-hmm.
from a family of modest means. I did not know how modest until I was older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said, I want a horse. And my parents said, sure, we'll talk about it, which to me just meant the door was open. I could
Right.
still go for it. So I thought, well, I'm going to negotiate this one. If I earn the money to buy it, could I have it? And they said, you have to earn the money to buy it and to pay the stabling on it. So I
Mm-hmm.
figured that out, got a different job, still underage. I think I was 13 at the time. So that started the role of, wow, if you want something,
You started
you can
early.
figure it out. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you just figure it out. Someone's going to help you along the line. And in that process, I met a lot of great people and some people who mentored me, who saw more in me than I saw in myself, who basically said, hey, you're doing this XYZ job, but you want to take on accounting. What? I don't think so, right? Sure. But once you did that, you're going, oh, I have an aptitude for that or an aptitude for this. So one thing led to another. And I went into, fast food and then gourmet food. And then I worked in warehousing for a while. All of it super, super interesting. And I think, Georgia, for me, the constant in it was just that I like people,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody taught me something. Even like the people go, oh, they're really kind of grumpy. I'm thinking, oh, okay. But they were really good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So Anyway, that has gone. And then when I was working for a family who had a manufacturing firm, I had an opportunity. Someone convinced me I had an opportunity, so I said yes to work in crisis,
Wow.
response. So I was doing suicide prevention and rape crisis, and that led to work in the nonprofit sector. So all of that just kind of built on itself over time. And
Mm-hmm.
I moved to where I live now, which is in northern Nevada, and did that work for a fair number of years, and then was asked if I wanted to work as a partner in a consulting firm who worked for nonprofits. So that kind of led me to where I was. And then in 2018, I decided that I wanted to go out on my own so I could add executive coaching and, different types of services that did not fit under the umbrella of that organization. So, and that's what I've been doing since 2018 and still do today.
Wow, so that's great. I mean, I think you've answered a few things that have to do with the question that I'm about to ask you now, but what inspires you to do the work that you do? Like what is it that gives you that passion and that excitement and that zest for, yes, I'm in the right place doing the right thing. I'm in my purpose. What inspires you to do the work that you do?
You know what? I'm not sure until recently I actually knew I could tell you I was in the right space, but I knew I felt good doing the work. So, but I always felt a little challenged. So there's always that edge of not
Hmm.
wanting to be too comfortable and having a little further reach than I felt comfortable has always drawn me forward. I tend to say yes to opportunities,
Hmm.
um, but I also say yes to opportunities that help me get out of things that scare me. So, like I became a self-defense instructor, not because I had this big vision of wanting to do that, but because I didn't want to be afraid,
Hmm.
and so I'm thinking, and then I got into it, I'm going, oh, I love doing that. So it's really that combination of wanting to go forward and not wanting that thing that says, but what if you can't, to have control of me.
Hmm. Well, I like what you said. You said, I say yes to opportunity. And I think sometimes as human beings, we tend to create invisible lids, as I call it, that invisible lid of fear of failing, or that invisible lid of fear of what people are going to think about you, or, so the magic is really created in the actions that you take and the actions that you launch. And the recipe for success in anything personally and professionally is really about changing your mindset. And like you said, saying yes, being
Yeah.
open to something different, being open to change. And even if you don't know, but being open and embracing another path at any age. You know what I mean? I think people are afraid of starting a new career when they get to a certain age because they feel they're too old, but it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to start something new. You know, why don't you share a little bit about, because we know in business there are a lot of setbacks, there are a lot of obstacles, there are a lot of challenges, right? We know all about that, don't we?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, we do.
Why don't you, is there, can you share like one piece of advice with someone that's really looking to start a new career? Because we know that with the pandemic, there's been like a total shift in people's thinking and the way that they look at things. And what's some advice that you can give to someone that's looking to start something new, start a new career?
This is advice I take myself and have been doing. And one of the folks I coached recently did this. But part of it is if you think you want to do something in an area, start doing it and test drive it. And that may be that you go and say I want to be a writer. Well, reach out and say, could I write a blog for you? Do I do some copy for you and just test it and get some feedback on it? See if you actually like doing it or if you just like the thought of doing it. Because sometimes the actual how it plays out is not the way that you envision in your head. You're going, oh, I'd love this. And then you're going, oh, I didn't know it involved all of that. And I don't think that's what I meant. I may need to tweak it a little. So I'd say stay loose, but start. Don't You're never going to feel perfectly ready. Um, at least I've never felt perfectly ready. I felt confident that I
Hmm.
could do it or figure it out or someone would help me.
Hmm.
But honestly, if we wait until we feel perfectly ready, that bus is gone. The ship has sailed because you're still building your readiness and someone else said, I can do it.
Exactly. Some people they think, "Oh, I need to learn more." And then they get stuck in that state of learning, but then they never take the action for it to actually happen. And it's always so important to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that's something
Exactly.
that I talk about all the time. Your why is your motivation. Your why is your purpose for what you do. And it's so important to know that before you start pursuing things, before you start spending time, using your time in different places and giving of your time, you need to know, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because sometimes people come to you and they want you to be a part of other things, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it has to align with your why. What
Yeah.
is your why? Why don't you share what your why is with us, Sarah?
Well, my personal why is to always keep growing. Um, so the minute I feel like there's nothing new that I can do or try and I feel boxed in, that's my why, or it's a clue that I need to be looking around, not necessarily even to change big things, but to go, what can I do to enliven my own life? Right. It may be something super simple. Sometimes it's a big shift though. And to your point earlier is to not put those lids on ourselves to go, well, I can't do this. Says who? That's my other, it's like, says who?
Right,
Says you? And if you're the one saying it, how do you know you can't? You
right,
know?
right.
So we can really box ourselves in, no pun intended, but
Hmm.
we can limit what's possible just because we're nervous. But I do think my why is that sense of kind of daily doing something that I know matters to me and to others. I love that sense of like having a conversation with someone, whether I'm working with them or not, and just knowing that we both walked away feeling better.
Hmm. And I think that especially now with the shift, right? The shift of everyone's consciousness level with the pandemic, people are realizing that the old normal wasn't serving them. So they're looking at other ways to do things. Can you share with us some actionable tips that actually help you keep grounded professionally and personally?
They're not sexy, but and people, they're not. They're practical, right? Um, And there are things that aren't gonna surprise your listeners, right? So I think self-talk and self-awareness is something that are super important. So I have always, I mean, I've got some decades on folks here. So I have always been super curious about why do we think certain ways? What
Mhm,
language do we use? How do we talk internally? And so which ties to my second thing. So first of all, being self-aware of the story I'm telling myself.
mhm,
So it's like when you say, I want to do this, the minute you hear that but in your head, be aware of it. And then just set it aside, but be aware and of what you're saying to yourself and own it. Own your own story. Um, in order to do that, the other tip is you got to slow down. You can't be on somebody else's clock. Like you were saying, George, if someone could offer you something and it sounds great to do it, right? And you're thinking, but why am I doing that? Why am I getting up to do this for you when it does not fit anywhere in my kind of like arc of my life, in my family, or whatever my priorities are? So being self-aware is one, but you have to slow down enough. And for me, because my mind is always going. It's kind of one of those, I could tell you what I'd love to be doing tomorrow or in the next 10 minutes, but that means sitting in silence, whether it's formal meditation or just a few minutes breathing, um, and then slowing down enough to go pay attention to like what's going on. Are my shoulders like this? Because I can tell you when they are. My neck is tight. But then also like, how much have I even been smiling today?
mhm.
Slow down, smile, have some gratitude. Even when things aren't going your way, go, whoa, let's take a step back. But that, and then the last thing for me is being in and connecting with nature. And I try every day at a minimum to get out and do the shortest is a 1.25 mile loop.
Mhm.
Honestly, we've had some crummy weather here, so I've had to really psych up to get out there. But when I'm in nature, it just shifts things. You can't look up at the sky and see so much grandeur and creativity of the universe or of the humans who've created buildings if you're living in a city. I mean, just all of that, and not be able to go, whoa, things are bigger than me. Let's have some appreciation of that, what's going on, and just the ability to breathe, honestly. So that self-awareness, slowing down and connecting to nature every day, moving in nature, um, are three essential things for me.
That's so powerful. One of the things for me that really helps me to get on that path to really being self aware is visualization.
Uh-huh.
And, I totally believe in visualization because it's worked for me so many years. And this is because a person's belief produces their own chemistry that brings out what they expect to happen. So when you visualize regularly, it helps you to focus on what you want. It helps you to feel empowered, to feel good. It carries power,
It does.
visualization. So, and it works with your brain chemistry to actually connect with the things that you want to manifest. So, visualization for me has been so powerful. I started visualizing and I started meditating maybe about 17 years ago, and it's totally shifted my life. And like you said, it's important to have that me time. It's important to slow down. It's important to take time to rejuvenate your thoughts because think about it, we have so much negativity that's coming at us every single day, so many hours of the day. You have to have that time to self reflect. You have to have that time to slow down your brain and to really focus on things that's going to bring you joy and happiness because of the negativity that's around you. It's everywhere,
It
right?
is.
It's
Well, and
everywhere.
setting an intention, right? My intention is to X whatever it is, right? But it's setting that in the morning and just thinking, that's my intention for today. Focus on it.
Absolutely. It's so important and so important. Can we're going to piggyback on, can you define like what success means to you? Because I know to many people, success means different things. But what does success, true, not even just success, true success, what does true success mean to you?
I would tell you that today my answer is different than it might have been 5 years or 10 years ago. Um, they're aligned. I mean, they're not like opposite, but for me, like the simplest way to say it is that I have the time and resources that create the life or the flexibility and freedom. So that means that I have the time to work with the folks I want to work with. I don't have to be grinding it out all the time, but I can work with a small organization, maybe, or a professional who wants to work deeply on something. So I'm not just like rush, rush, rush. Um, Living without an alarm clock is super important. Like I trust my body. I wake up when I need to, which went to the whole like, why am I living on someone else's schedule? And I work hard when I work, but also when I'm done, I'm done. And so to me, to be in that situation where it's both a literal alarm or even when you're in other people's worlds and I don't have to live in a crisis, to me, so that creating that atmosphere and just the energy around, I guess is the best way to say it. And then also knowing that every day I have made a significant difference, no matter how small, in at least one person's life. And I reflect on that at the end of the day of like, okay, who did I talk to today or interact with today? Did I help brighten their day at all? You know, um, it happens, if we take time, you'd be surprised how many people you interact with that they're going, "Oh, that was so great to talk to you." Because I think about it with people I talk to. And then also like, is the degree that I'm laughing going up? Because that's really a success. If I'm not laughing, then I must be way too serious.
Exactly. Exactly. To attain true success is really about fully understanding what matters most in your life.
Mhm.
And oftentimes people think that success brings happiness, but true happiness is really about feeling good. It's an immersive feeling that, you feel good inside about who you are, what you're doing. It's not just about riches and wealth. It's a state of mind. It's really a state of mind. That's what success is about. And it's really about feeling fulfilled and satisfied with who you are and what you do, and learning who you are. Because think about it, when you're born, someone gives you a name. When you start a job, someone gives you a job title. Society is constantly putting labels on you. So it's really, success is what you want it to be to you, not to anyone else.
I know. Well, you're so right.
And I think there's been misconceptions about that because we allow society to put labels on us. Um,
Do you
what
think
are
that's shifting, Georgia? Do you think people are getting tired of that?
I think there's been a complete shift because I think that people are creating jobs for themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
there's influencers, there's Uber. People are learning how to control how they generate income now.
Yeah.
There's Lyft. There's, people are delivering food. People are creating jobs for themselves. So I think that times definitely have shifted, and there's a lot more opportunities for you to be your own boss.
Well, and I think you said the main thing, people are realizing that they can do that, right? You're not waiting around for someone to say, Georgia, I think it's time for you to create your own business. It's like you're saying, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. It's that self agency kind of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we all know that, in a world that's constantly changing, where sometimes we feel we don't have control, what are some early lessons that's help you to learn to in life to help you cope with a world that's constantly changing?
Well, I like to have control, frankly. However, I've realized that it's a lie. But when I was a kid and I would be disappointed, and I'd say young elementary age even, I would go to my mom and I'd be frustrated, say this, and she'd just say, and at this time, George, I got to tell you, I didn't actually get it. But I heard it enough that it sunk in. And she goes, honey, there's always going to be another bus. We lived in a rural area. We didn't have buses, but I knew what she meant because she lived in a city. But it was like, don't hang your hat on that one. Don't put all your eggs in that same basket, right? There's going to be another opportunity. And so it set me to release things quicker. It's like, yes, and you teenagers, you don't release that quick, but you get over it. But also remembering, like, this is not the end of the world. There's going to be an opportunity, or with some distance, you're going to see this totally differently. So that whole thing about there will always be another bus has kind of stuck with me. We were talking about that, my siblings and I, not long ago, about our momisms, the things she would say that just stick with us. And that was one of them we all remembered. It's like, yep, there'll always be another bus. That and keep your socks up, which I never really, I don't get it, but she was a Depression era kid. So I think that might have had something with that. I
Hmm.
didn't get it. But the bus thing has helped. And then to remember that I do have choice. At a minimum, I have choice about how I think about things. And that's probably the most powerful choice I have.
Yeah, I think the biggest gift in life that we have is the gift of choice. We get to choose who we want to be, we get to choose where we want to spend our time, we get to choose how we use our gifts. And I think that when you start to live and vibrate in that energy of expectancy, like you said, when opportunities or things happen, you don't feel like you're missing out because you know that it's always going to be there. Something else is always going to come. And that's what people don't realize when people think about when they say, oh, I want more money or I want this. I'm like, it's really not more money you want, it's more freedom, right? Because that's what people think that money gives them, is freedom to make choices and decisions, to do things and to go places where they want to go. So I believe that life is your greatest teacher, right? And life starts to make sense when you begin to realize that everything that happens in your life is a lesson to learn, to grow, to evolve, and to develop and live in your highest potential. And once you learn to embrace that, then you realize that there's really nothing missing for me to be happy or successful because the two intertangle together. You
Exactly.
cannot be successful without happiness. You know what I mean? And people think
I
it's
do. I think you're 100% right.
they think it's the reverse. They think success is going to bring happiness, but we see it all too often with people that have money that feel like something's missing. They feel like they're successfully discontent, like their purpose, they're not living in their purpose, they're not doing what they love. And I think, to me, like, once you understand what your purpose is, that's when you really crack the code to success, because now you know why you're here, and you realize that there's nothing missing, there's nothing that I can't have. I have the ability to create the life that I love, and that's what this podcast is about, right? Creating the life you love. Now, there is a signature question that I like to ask all my guests, and that question is, if you were to look into the mirror, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, actually, when I was younger, like probably up until I was 16, maybe 15, I actually think looking back, I had my stuff together. I mean, I knew here. I was connected here. And I was not inhibited to tell you. You'd ask, I just tell you. And then you get out in the world and you start, not everybody, I did. I started like minimizing a little, tamping down. So what I would tell myself is, you've got this, trust yourself, stay shiny, just stay shiny and play full out. Don't diminish yourself at all. Um, because after that, right, you start coming, you're going, oh, there she is. Here you are. I remember you. So just trust it. Just trust yourselves. As when you talk about we're born into this world, Georgia, we're born unique into this world, and it's not on accident. We are who we are. And things are here for us to help us grow and evolve.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sarah. I think, like, it's so important, like, for once you get to that point where you are evolving and you've, like I say, they always, people ask me, Georgia, you think you cracked the code to living a successful life? And I'm like, absolutely. Because guess what? Nothing's missing. I realize I have everything that I need to succeed. Can you share with us where people can find you, your website, and how people can get in contact with you?
Sure. The easiest way probably is the website. It's sarahboxx.com. So B with two X's. So sarahboxx.com. And that's got links to our socials and our services and all of that. We actually love to hear from folks. Our podcast is accessible there, but it's also available at no labels, no limits podcast.com. Um, and then just reach out. I've got a little team. We're this superpower group that just come together because we love working together. We're all our own businesses. And so we're doing some cool things in the nonprofit space and some other spaces together just as a team. So we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us. Please be sure to like, to share this podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. And remember, you guys need to remember, we all have the freedom to choose and be mindfully aware to create the experiences we desire and less of the things that we don't want. So remember, you have the power to create the life you love. Thank you so much. Thanks, Sarah. And we'll be in touch soon. Take care.